So I mentioned that November is Diabetes Awareness Month and that I was sharing some things just to bring awareness, because that's what the Awareness Month should be for, right? And I think it's important because, and I mentioned this way back in the beginning, which I still feel like we're at the beginning, we're just a little over 6 months in, but there's a lot of things to know about type 1 diabetes, and it gets very confused with type 2 because more people have type 2 compared to type 1. There's even medical professionals who don't know the differences in certain circumstances. So the more people know, the better, right? And as a mother to someone with type 1 diabetes, I do think about, Preston's future as an adult when he's no longer a child, and him having proper care out there when I'm not there. I actually read a story from a support page that I'm in for type 1 parents of type 1 diabetics, and another group with just type 1. So there's parents and adults in there with type 1. And for the longest time, she thought she had type 2 because she was diagnosed as an adult. And the thing about type 1 diabetes, it used to be called juvenile diabetes. And the reason they changed it is because not only children are diagnosed with it, because it's an autoimmune reaction, essentially, is your pancreas just getting attacked by your own immune system and shutting down, so it no longer produces insulin. And so that can happen at any age. But a lot of times it's earlier in your age when you're a child because you have something that triggers it when you're younger. But you can still get triggered if you are older as well. And the majority of children who are diagnosed with diabetes are type 1s. It's easy to think of it as type 1 is just for children, but that's not the case at all. It takes blood work, it takes things to diagnose properly, but also treatment is different. And so that's what happened to this girl. She was getting treated as a type 2 diabetic and it was not going well. So once they figured out she was type 1, or now she's all of a sudden figuring out she's type 1, and she just feels like it's this whole new journey to start because they are different in a lot of ways. So anyway, I was going to share something else, but I think I just will. I'm just going to talk because I'm on my soapbox. So before Preston was diagnosed, the week before, I had talked before about his symptoms that we didn't know really were symptoms at the time. Or one of the things that he was experiencing close to the time he was diagnosed was excessive thirst. But part of the reason for that was he would say, my mouth feels really dry. Just, like cotton mouth, just all the time, no matter how much water he would drink. And so about a week before, I was at the store and I picked this up, and it is mouthwash for dry mouth. And I thought, oh, there's our solution right there. I bet for some reason he's just got dry mouth, and so this will fix it. And he used it for several nights and it did nothing. But this has still been sitting in our bathroom. I need to just throw it away. I think it just became one of those things that we just associated with it, but I just keep looking at it. But it just reminds me of that time and how easy it is to brush something aside that's so simple because it doesn't sound like a big deal. So I bring that up just to bring awareness for some of the symptoms of diabetes, because it's not fever, it's not cough, it's not typical sick symptoms. And a lot of kids get diagnosed when they're really sick because it progresses to that point before people realize what's going on. Preston was feeling really bad. He was in DKA, which is diabetic ketoacidosis. So that's a dangerous thing to be in. And thankfully, all was well, and he was in the early stages of that. But it's a scary thing to think about kids not getting to the doctor in time and realizing it. I really, really wish that at yearly checkups that either an A1C could be checked or even just their blood sugar with a finger prick, because that's really all it takes just to know if something might be off. You don't have a perfect pancreas one day and then the next you're in DKA from no insulin. It's a gradual thing, and it's almost like when your immune system attacks your pancreas, it's like it kills off the cells slowly, I guess you could say, or it takes a while to kill them all. How about that? And so your body is still producing insulin. And so you probably will regulate you enough to where you're not going to be sick and show symptoms right away. You know, Preston, we don't really know what triggered him. The only thing that I can think of is he was sick with the flu about 4 months before his diagnosis. He was really sick. He was sick for several days with fever. And I don't know, he'd never really gotten sick for several days like that, so I don't know if that's what it was or if that's when all of that started. But it's possible. It's the only thing that we could pinpoint, but you know, we'll never know for sure. He was seen at the doctor in January and he was diagnosed in March. And you know, I can't help but think, man, what if his finger prick was taken in January and had an elevated blood sugar? You know, it may not have caught it. And I know it is impossible to screen for every single disease and disorder out there just out of precaution. So since that's not something that they will get checked for, I just do think it's important to at least know some of the symptoms, just because they do not present like typical sick symptoms. You know, Preston was very active at the time of his diagnosis. He was at basketball practice every night. He would just come home like, my water's gone. He's super thirsty. He was very tired. He was tired in the mornings. And so it progressed enough to where we knew this is more than just regular thirsty or regular tired or regular issues with dry mouth. You know, he couldn't even swallow his breakfast because his mouth was so dry the morning that I checked his blood sugar. So it had progressed to that point, but this was probably a 2-week process. And so, you know, I do feel like we still did get him help in a timely manner, but I can't help but wish that it had been even sooner, you know? I don't know if there is a rise in diagnosis of this, but in the support groups that I'm in, it is daily people coming in brand new. My child was just diagnosed. We're in the hospital. What do I do? It's like it's all the time. I do think it's important just to at least know some of the things to look out for, so you know, any child who may be experiencing it can get help as quick as possible.